Welcome to Valerie's Real Talk podcast. My name is Valerie Smith and I'm your host. Today is episode 56 and I'm going to speak on Rise Up Leaders. Today we need effective leaders. As we know, as we are getting close to the election, the question is, what is leadership? Leadership is not blaming. Leadership is not about titles. Leadership is not even about power. It's all about influence. It's all about using your strengths and helping your team to excel to the next level. However, leadership starts with you. If you are not leading yourself effectively by taking care of yourself, by developing your skills, and influencing others, you're just not a leader. Because leadership is leading yourself, meaning you are an example of what you show up as at work, in your business, in your personal life as well. Your team is not going to learn from you if you're all about your title, if you're all about this power, or you're all about the blame game. And many leaders right now are blaming people for problems that are happening. And as a leader, you should be the one solving problems, being creative, and utilizing your team to solve problems effectively. And today, we're not seeing that. Our leaders are weak. Our leaders need to step up to the plate and own up to problems that we're having and solve them. Not just by yourself, but with your team, or teams with the S. For me, leadership development is very important. When you talk to a lot of leaders, they have admitted to the problems that they've had and how they fell short to solving some problems. And one of the problems is retention. They cannot keep a lot of their employees on the payroll because they're quitting. They don't feel a sense of belonging. They don't feel like they're growing within the corporation. They feel like the communication between their manager and them is just not there. Because why? Many of our managers have really waxed code in their communication. And it's time for our leaders to start developing, to understanding what is the future ahead. How do you take care of business? How do you nurture your teams? And I'm not talking about babying your team. I'm talking about nurturing your team, making sure they're developing in their skill set, to make sure they understand what is the company's future vision and what skill sets do they need to develop to prepare for this new future of work. That's right, the new future of work, because we have all generations working together. If you haven't heard that a lot of your corporations are getting rid of younger workers because of a lack of communication. And the reason for that is because, one, you have to understand what the mission of the company is. If you're a manager and you are Gen Z or a millennial, and you're not communicating with your manager, you're just texting saying you're not coming in, that puts a damper on the business performance. And that's the reason why it's not the fact they want to get rid of you, it's the fact of lack of communication. And so they're looking for people like middle managers, or they're looking for people who have 15, 20 years experience to come back into the workforce or come into the workforce to train Gen Zs and millennials on how to communicate effectively if you're going to be a manager. Because leadership is all about influence. And if you're a young manager and you don't understand that, you need leadership development programs to help you get to that level of leadership, because you're just a baby. You're a baby leader and who needs development in your leadership skills. You don't get it overnight. I'll say it again. You don't get this kind of training overnight. It takes time. It's a journey. You have to grow as a leader. Just because you have a title does not make you a leader. A leader is all about influence. A leader is organized. They prioritize. They make sure their teams are well developed and skilled. And if you're not doing that for yourself, you're not going to do it for your team. That's why it's important. If you're a young leader, you need to learn from people who have experience of 15 or 20 years in management, in leadership roles. This is important for all corporations to hear this message. Our younger leaders need to be trained. Don't just put them in a role because you want to fill a job. If you're going to fill a job, make sure they train. That's what leadership development is all about. That's why we have to rise up to leaders. We have to raise the bar. Raise the bar and start training our future leaders effectively so they won't get fired. We cannot, again, leaders are blaming the millennials. Leaders are blaming the Gen Zs. However, we know that they lack communication. So we need to put them in communication courses if they want to grow. If they don't, they must be let go. Because it's not about your title. It's not about power. It's not about status. It's all about performance, influence, and developing. So your homework today, if you are a young leader or a middle manager, or you could be a senior leader, or you could be a CEO, it's time to prioritize who you are as a leader. And how are you going to raise the bar? Are you going to take the classes? Are you going to go to the workshops? Are you going to go to the seminars, conferences? It's time. It's time to stop pointing the fingers, blaming everybody for your problems as a leader, and develop. There are plenty of courses everywhere. Some are free and some you have to pay. However, if you work for a corporation and they have tuition reimbursement, take advantage of the programs that your corporation gives to you so you can be that effective leader. That's rise up to leadership. That's stop doing the blame game for problems. As a leader, your job is to solve problems and not point the finger at the other person. So it's time to rise up as a leader and raise the bar. That is your homework today. And I want to say thank you for joining me at Valerie's R.E.A.L Talk podcast. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you are, I want you to spread the message that we need to rise up as leaders and raise the bar. And I look forward to seeing you next week for episode 57.